Hi, everyone. Seth Screamo here with the Best of Wooster podcast. We are starting season 2 with one of my favorite people in Wooster. His name is Chad. If you've been in Wooster for a long time, you've seen multiple businesses from him. So let me introduce Chad here. Chad, how are you doing today?
Hey, Seth, I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. All right, let's get into the questions.
Sounds
All right,
good.
Chad. So it's Friday night and you're at Basil. What's your go-to order? Or are you ordering from Woosh?
I'm definitely ordering it from Woosh, and I'm getting the pad thai.
Okay.
It's my favorite. I like that, or the curry fried rice.
There you go. Can't go wrong. So you mentioned that Step Brothers is your favorite movie. What makes that one a classic in your book?
You know, we grew up kind of watching like the best of Will Ferrell on SNL, and I've just always been a big fan of his work. You know, he's had a lot of good movies, and comedy's definitely like what I'm into, especially if you've seen the stuff I posted recently. So I just love that movie. I think it's a timeless classic at this point. And it's something I can always go back to and enjoy.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. Will Ferrell is funny. What's your favorite line from the movie?
I like the scene when they're getting ready to go to bed, and he's like threatening to beat him with like the bag of soap, and he's like, as soon as you close your eyes, I'm gonna, you know.
Have you ever went into the garage and done karate?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, enough small talk. Let's get into the questions here. So you dropped a pretty bold answer for the best thing about your life right now. And should we give a shout out to your trainer on there?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I started working with your program recently, and it's definitely one of those things where I've always been an active guy. I swam in high school. I bike. I didn't have a car till I was 18, so I biked everywhere, usually 15, 20 miles a day. And when I wasn't biking, I was running or rollerblading. And after starting so many businesses where you just drive all the time, it's so easy to pack on that weight. Especially before all that, I was powerlifting, so put on a lot of muscle, a lot of size, and it wasn't too hard to turn those heavy calories I was eating into just straight fat when you're not mobile and up and around. And so this has just been a blessing to get out and get back in the gym, have somebody there coaching and helping me and motivating me. So yeah, like I said, I mean, it's helping my mind, it's helping me physically with my energy, and I'm just super thankful for it.
Well, having a coach is the ultimate life hack, right? So for people who haven't met you yet, how would you describe what you do in one sentence?
Well, I'd say, I'm one of those people where if I don't know how to do something, I can figure it out. And that's kind of been my motto ever since I started my first business, where I had no experience in that at all, which was, courier service, and then I went on to start kind of like a little technology company. We built like COVID disinfection systems during that time, like UV boxes. We also did electric scooters, and then we had a mattress store, we had Swoop Transportation. I'm sure I'm missing a bunch of other things in there. Now we have Drip Detail and Scroll Theory marketing, so we got a lot going on.
Yeah, no, for sure. So you said that you build better businesses, which is such a powerful mission. Where did that mindset come from?
It just came from the fact that it's like there's so many businesses where they have the potential to be really amazing. And you sometimes see people just not putting in the effort to make them what they could be. And I've always wanted to provide the highest experience possible for my customers and clients. So it's just, you treat people how you want to be treated. If I go somewhere and somebody's putting in a lot of effort and trying really hard to have a good business and treat people well, then I'm going to be a customer for life, and I try and do the same thing for mine.
Now, you said that Woosh was your first venture because it was such a low barrier to entry. Can you tell us the story about how it got started?
Yeah, Woosh is an interesting one. We originally came up with the idea probably early 2015, and it was when I had moved to Arizona, and everything out there was really different. So we lived in like this little neighborhood, and it probably took like 10, 15 minutes to get to any like a gas station, restaurant, anything. It's like we weren't in a rural area. It's just it was so big and flat out there. And the neighborhood was like really hard to get out of. It was like a crazy like Twister, but they just didn't have any like nobody out there ever delivered, and they didn't really have any like local businesses, and it was just weird. It was totally different from what I experienced here in Wooster, Ohio, and the other places I've been. And I've always been passionate and driven. At the time, I just didn't know how to focus that energy. Eventually, we kind of came up with the idea for Woosh, which was like, just food delivery in the beginning. I can't remember who came up with the name. It wasn't me that came up with the name. It was one of my friends. Came back, sat on it for a couple of years. I ended up working at Scheffler or Luke, and just absolutely hated it. I remember I got mandatory overtime for several months in a row, and I mean, I was working every day. My feet were killing me from being on the concrete all the time, and I was in heat treat on second shift, so it was just so hot all the time. So when I came in and started working on the weekends, I was just sorting parts. I wasn't even doing like my position. So I started bringing a notebook with me and watching YouTube videos. I would sort really fast to where the machine like had to catch up, and then I would like work on building Woosh. And I got it to a point where, I didn't exactly feel comfortable that I knew what I was doing, but I was like, you know what, it can't be worse than what I'm doing now. So I decided to take that leap and, totally bootstrapped. I started with just a couple $100, just enough to file the LLC, get some flyers that I printed from the library. And just, I handed them out to anybody that would talk to me. And that's how we got there.
No, I think being able to self-educate is huge. I think it's something that a lot of people that once they learn that, you'd be surprised what you can come up with. So what has been the biggest learning curve or growth moments from those early days?
Man, the early days, I mean, everything was a new learning curve because I didn't know anything. I didn't go to college. I went to college for one semester, so didn't really count. And I didn't even finish that semester. But yeah, I mean, just not knowing anything. I didn't know how to lead a team. I never had a leadership position. I never built anything on my own, but I was willing to put in the work and figure it out no matter what. It was also hard because I didn't have any money. So, I had to learn everything from just doing it. And when you just try enough things, if you throw enough at the wall, something sticks eventually. And that's still true to what I do today. It's like I don't know, I'm hell bent on figuring things out. I don't know, whatever's inside of me that just makes me like, yeah, I can do this. And, you use the fuel of people that say you can't to make it happen.
Oh yeah, definitely. When you have something like that that's fueling you, you're on the right track. If you don't have haters, folks, you're doing something wrong. So you said that content is king. How would you approach creating content that actually connects with people?
Yeah, so I mean, content is king, and whether that's a post, a picture, a video, just a writing, whatever, and it's the way you connect with your audience and your customers and your clients. And just people in general, I like to post. I've always posted things that were authentic to me. We used to do like the Where's Woosh Wednesday, and I would like hide my car around, and that was always super fun. We would do, we would just like give out T-shirts to people on random orders, and we would do shout outs. And we definitely don't do it as much anymore, which I would like to get back into. But just making content, now we record a lot of like skits and videos that kind of embody like what we're doing, but also include my sense of humor, which is what I always wanted to do growing up. I always wanted to be like a YouTuber. That was like my dream job. I'm just making fun stuff, like I said, the whole Step Brothers thing. It's like, I just embody that kind of energy and personality. And I think if you can make stuff that is authentic to you, that's going to make people be like, okay, maybe it's not my style, but I respect what they're doing. And, it's cool to see that.
Yeah, I think it's important to be yourself because one, not everyone will buy you, you as a brand, right? But a preferred brand is a preferred brand and vice versa, right? So like if people are referring you and you're getting business, then you must be doing something right.
Yep.
And it's good to have that reassurance. So you're pretty active on TikTok, Instagram, the YouTube. How would you decide where to show up and what to share?
So each platform is definitely different. Some things I posted TikTok, I wouldn't post Instagram, and same thing with YouTube, Facebook, whatever. Most of my video content, I'll post to TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. I usually sometimes post videos to Instagram, but it has to be like a different type of video because they just don't perform well there. Honestly, Instagram is probably one of my least favorite platforms. I just post there because you can from Facebook. It's easy. But yeah, I mean, really, like I said, it really just depends. And then I have so many different accounts for all the businesses. It's like, what do I post where? Like a lot of the new drip videos I've been recording don't really like resonate with the drip vibe that I'm building. So I post them on my personal stuff because it's more just for me. And if, my friends are used to that kind of thing from me. So when they see that, they're like, oh, okay, but I wouldn't post it to the drip page because I'm building more of like a premium brand there. It has a certain type of feel and energy. So yeah, I save it for other stuff.
So, what's something about your business that most people don't see, but you wish that they knew?
I mean, probably just the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into everything, of course. I mean, especially on Woosh, where it's like it used to just be a small business and everybody knew that it was me. And then it kind of grew past that small town feel. I mean, people always thought it was like a huge brand, and it's not, it's still just me. But it's funny to like kind of have that experience of you go into a restaurant and people are like, "Oh, you drive for Woosh?" And it's like, "Well, I actually own Woosh." And then they just can't believe it. It's always been really strange. So, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes for all these businesses. I mean, especially managing multiple businesses at once. It's a lot of work. People are always asking me how I do it. And it's like, well, I've got good people in my corner helping me. So that's how.
Sure. I think a lot of people always forget that even big companies start off as small companies at one
Yeah.
point, right? Like you think of, Jeff Bezos, he was started in his garage.
Selling books.
Yeah. So now you mentioned that your mindset has completely shifted since starting. What sparked that shift and how has it affected you, how you lead?
So yeah, my mind has totally shifted. Because like I said, I never had like that outlet and I didn't know how to direct that energy. And once I found out that like creating was my passion, I love to create and bring a vision to life. It just becomes kind of like an addictive feeling of like, wow, like if I put my mind to something, I can actually make it happen. And then once you get the reps in and you hammer that down, Drip was a kind of like a case study for the marketing thing where I was like, let's see how fast I can spin up a brand and take it from $0 to $10,000 a month. And just to be able to do that within 30 days is, it's the stuff that I wish I would have knew when I started, but you only get that after you've put in those thousands of hours and just gone through that trial and error.
Now, you say you're pretty big on communication and connection. How do you stay grounded and plugged with your role in customer base as things grow?
So it's, going to networking events, interacting with customers on social media and in person, and it's like every time I go somewhere, I always run into somebody I know. So it's the reason why I have all that podcast equipment sitting in my basement is because every time I'd run into somebody, we'd have a 3-hour conversation in a parking lot. And it's just how it always has been. So, I love community networking. I love brainstorming with other people and, just getting together and having fun. I think being social, especially for me as an extrovert, is crucial to, my happiness and well-being. And also, just getting feedback from people and like how do they perceive things from the outside? Because, it's hard to see what you're doing from that perspective.
Oh, 100%. Since 2019, majority of my business has been remote based. And recently, the past couple of years, I've gone back to more in-person training. And the reason why is because I missed it. Having that person-to-person connection is huge. So what role has, community support played in your journey so far?
I mean, it's been everything. I mean, what are you without your community? What are you without your supporters and the people that support your business? It's like when you have people that have spent over $40,000-$50,000 on your business, you're doing something right. And those are the same people that like I would die for. They transcend what it is to be a customer and become more of like a family. And I've got so many of those people that like, it's like some of my friends don't even know how to use my business. And I've got total strangers where, if they were like, hey, I'm out of, bread, can you go to the store? Like, yeah, I'll go get it for you. No problem. You don't got to pay me for that. You spend enough on my platform, but no, just building real meaningful relationships with people has been huge.
Yeah, I think it's very important to build a tribe, take care of the tribe, because the tribe will take care of you.
Right.
Seth Godin talks about that in his book, Tribes. So good book to read if you haven't read it. Now you mentioned, 5-year vision. Looking at crystal ball here. That being on an island. Tell us more about that. Is that a metaphor? Are we talking about actual beach, toes in the sand, and coconut drink in your hand?
Yeah, so the island, I mean, that's been something I've always wanted, and this was before like all the crazy Epstein stuff. So I don't want to be associated with that. But...
He doesn't have the list, folks. Don't worry.
Yeah, I mean, it's just having a place to kind of get away with your friends and family, and just kind of getting disconnected. I think especially after being you work so many hours, you do so many things, you're so connected to technology. I remember seeing this episode on Joe Rogan about this guy that went and lived with, I think it was the Hazda tribe, and got to live like our ancestors used to live. While it's not all fun and rain, sunshine and rainbows, it's just something, you feel so disconnected, and it's like that feels like something that would just be grounding. And I think going to an island and kind of living a more laid back, primitive lifestyle, maybe having to do a lot more of that manual labor, you're farming and stuff like that. I've really enjoyed the gardens that we do, and we've done some pretty big ones. And I don't know, it's just getting out there, being in the sun, working for what you have, and then also just kind of taking a break and disconnecting for a little bit seems like such a you only get one life. How do you want to live it?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's part of like what I want.
Yeah, no, for sure. Now, Chad, you're dad, just like me. So I'm gonna change this question up a little bit. Might probably hit you in the feels. So when your kids look back on what you've built, what kind of legacy do you think that they hope to see?
This is a tough one, and I try to really stay present in the moment, because I do work a lot, and you always have that feeling: am I spending enough time with my family? Am I doing the right thing? Is this really the path I am pursuing? And this is all for them. Growing up, I lived in a super abusive household, and we didn't have very much growing up. So for me, this is just, I wanted to give them the life that they couldn't even imagine. And I want to, my goal has always been to change the lives of anybody I ever come in contact with. Anybody who knows me, I want to be able to change their lives. And what do I hope they see? I hope they see that their dad worked hard and built something for them that lasts generations, and they can be proud of who I am and what I've done. And hopefully that goes on, and they can either carry on that legacy, or they, do their own thing and create their own legacy.
So speaking of creating your own legacies, let's say there's someone listening right now that wants to start their own creative venture. What's your real, unfiltered, raw advice?
So, I mean, the most important thing is to just do it. Just get started. So many people get analysis paralysis, where they'll just spend an infinite amount of time trying to perfect something that really, as soon as you start, it's all going to fall apart anyway. The more you do it, the better you get at it. But when you're first starting, you feel like you have to know all the answers, and that's just not how it is. You get a rough draft. Everybody's like, "Oh, I don't have a business plan." It's like, I haven't written a business plan in years, and generally I never use it the way it's meant anyway. So I think that's more of like you went to business school kind of thing. Really, you need to just develop an outline and a plan of what your goal is and what you're trying to accomplish, and then you need to get started. If you can't get started, you're never going to get the results. So, what's the point of worrying if you never actually put, your feet to the pavement?
Yeah, I've always been a huge believer in learning to fail faster so you can learn
Right.
from it and do better the next time.
Yep.
Now, you said you want to give a big shout out to your friends and family. Is there anyone that you want to name drop and thank publicly?
Yeah, I mean, Coral has obviously been a rock for me for a long time. She's helped with all of the businesses, and she does a lot of that back end admin work that I either suck at or I just don't have time to do. My friend Tyler, he's been somebody he's one of those people where he's such a rare breed. He's a true friend, where you could call him at 3 a.m. and he's there to help you, no matter what. And I mean, there's been so many people over the years. I've had hundreds of contractors, which each person has left their own mark. And, everybody you've ever come in contact with can change the course of things. But all of the supportive people online, anytime somebody's trying to be mean to me in the Facebook groups and people always come to my rescue, I've just built a great community of people who are always looking out for me. And I really appreciate that.
Now, I know you run a bunch of different platforms. Where's the best place for people to follow what you're building next? Socials, storefronts, events?
Yeah, definitely just my Facebook, Chad Tennent. That's where I post a lot of my updates. That's where I post a lot of my videos. And then generally you can find my TikTok, Instagram, YouTube there. And also I also love connecting with people. So it's a good platform to talk to me on. If you text me, it's generally going to get buried under the millions of texts. Same thing with emails.
Trust me, I get text them all the time. So second to last question here. What's something you're currently working on that has you most excited about?
Definitely the Scroll Theory Media. So that is a marketing company I decided to launch. I've been doing marketing for a long time, and now it's time to put, like I said, your feet to the pavement. I want to do for other people what I did for myself, the things that I've learned. And like I said, after Swoop, having that massive failure, like you said, you fail faster to learn whatever you said, but that one was a rough one. We didn't know exactly what was going to happen, and that's just been kind of a monumental shift in how I think of things and how I do things, and we're trying to recover from that. So the Scroll Theory has kind of been a project for me to look at and focus on and say, because after you fail that hard, you're like, am I really cut out for this kind of thing? Is how do you come back as an entrepreneur when you failed that hard? And Drip was a good, let's just test what we can do. And after that, I'm like, okay, so it definitely, there was outside factors there that kind of caused that to happen. So definitely Scroll Theory. We want to help small businesses grow and scale and skip all those years of trial and error and just making the wrong decisions.
Yeah, I think it's important to learn from someone else's knowledge, right? So last question here. Chad, what's the best thing about your life right now?
You often take for granted as an entrepreneur the amount of time you have, even when you're busy and everything, the time that you get with your family. And especially when you worked at somewhere like Scheffler and you're that mandatory overtime, and there's just that block of period where you don't get to see or talk to anybody that you want to. It's like I can detail cars down here, I can run home, I can go to the bank, I can do whatever I need to do. And then, like I said, also, to use my trainer, I've been so thankful for that. And it's been a great mindset shift for me to get back out, get back in the gym. I already feel 10 times better. And that and all my businesses, I'm thankful every day for everything that I have. And I'm excited to grow it into whatever it'll be.
Oh, no, for sure. Well, Chad, thank you so much for being on the show. Best of Wooster podcast. If anyone needs any other contact information, you're welcome to reach out to myself, Seth Screamo, at 330-221-1547. Have a great day. Bye.